Good morning and welcome to the Planning Hearing Officers hearing for February 18th, 2015. My name is Laura Stotler and I'll be the hearing officer today. We have two cases and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. The agenda, staff reports, and recommendations for each of today's cases may be found on the city's website, and then we also have copies of those reports on the desk by the front door. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if four required findings are present. As part of the conditional use permits today, we have one that's requesting alcohol sales. So for applications involving the sale, serving, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, there are additional 5 criteria that also must be considered in making the 4 required findings. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearings today meet the criteria, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners and occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property. The sites were physically posted, and there was a notice placed in the local newspaper, and there's also notice on the city's website. Hearings will proceed as follows. First, I'll read a description of the requested entitlements. The case planner will then make a brief overview presentation of the case, give an analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present their case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and any other interested parties will then be asked to come forward to speak, stating both name and address, and they will have a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to any testimonies given by the preceding speakers, and they will have 5 minutes to do that. The hearing will then be closed and the case taken under submission, or I may issue a decision today. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing, will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, who have either spoke at this hearing and who have provided their email or mailing address. And also, the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. If a decision is made at this hearing, however, today will be the decision date, and the 15-day appeal period. These calendar days would start today. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone who wishes to appeal may obtain a form and brochures on the procedure from the Permit Services Center, which is located in room 101 of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of our green speakers forms. I know I have a number out here, but I still see people in the audience who've not submitted one, so if you wish to speak, please submit one. And then also please turn those forms into our planning assistant. I would also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the hearing are being recorded as part of the public record. So for the first case, we have at 2265 Honolulu Avenue, Basin 141. It's conditional use permit case number PCUP 1426862. The applicant is Matas Flores, and the case planner is Vista Izadi. This is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a tavern with food service in the CR commercial retail zone, which includes the on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages as a Type 48 license, located at 2265 Honolulu Avenue. The project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act as Class 1 existing facilities exemption pursuant to State CEQA Guidelines, Section 15301. With that, I would like to ask the case planner to please provide an overview.
Good morning, Ms. Stotler, and thank you. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to operate a tavern in the commercial retail zone with incidental food service. The proposed tavern is located in the Montrose Shopping Park, and the applicant's request is consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan and the North Glendale Community Plan. The project site is located on Honolulu Avenue. The lot is approximately 5,600 square feet and developed with a 2-story, 3-unit commercial building with a total of 8 on-site parking spaces located at the rear of the existing building. The building currently has 2 occupants on the first floor, a 2,500 square foot jewelry store, and the Basin 141, which is currently a 2,500 square foot restaurant proposing a change of use to a tavern. The second floor space is occupied by office uses. Access to the parking lot is from an alley located at the rear of the subject property. In accordance with the plan submitted with the application, there's a total of 50 seats available to patrons of the tavern. The area surrounding the subject site is developed with similar land uses as the subject project. Residential uses are located to the north of the subject property and are separated from the use by an alley and a public parking lot. The proposed tavern is located in the CR zone, which is intended to accommodate retail shopping and convenience services in the Montrose Shopping Park. The shopping park provides pedestrian-friendly destination shopping and dining, supported by public parking lots, wide sidewalks that attract customers from many areas. The applicant's request to operate a tavern that offers on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcohol with incidental food service would be in keeping with the goals of the North Glendale Community Plan as well as the General Plan. No major concerns were received from the various city divisions or departments for the applicant's request. Suggested conditions were made by the police department and neighborhood services and are included in the draft conditions of approval. No other city departments had comments regarding this application. Staff has received 4 letters of support since the application was submitted, and they are noted in the file. The applicant's proposal includes food service with a full menu and kitchen that is incidental to the primary use as a tavern. Basin 141 has been in operation at this location for almost 2 years without any major incident. In 2013, they were issued a zoning use certificate for a full-service restaurant. Based on their current Type 48 license with the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, as well as their operation, the appropriate land use classification for this establishment under our land use definitions would be a tavern with incidental food service. A tavern use requires a CUP in the zone. The applicant's request is not anticipated to be detrimental to the public health or safety, general welfare, or environment as conditioned. The proposed tavern is located in the Montrose Shopping Park, as noted, and it's not anticipated to create any negative traffic-related impacts on the area streets or other businesses over and above the existing conditions. According to the applicant, their current hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m., and during the weekends, they're open from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m. The application doesn't include any added floor area or modifications to the existing building. Therefore, adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation are existing and provided for. In accordance with the municipal code, the change of use from a full-service restaurant to a tavern does not trigger additional parking requirements. The site is currently developed with 8 parking spaces at the rear of the subject lot, which is shared among the current uses on site. The proposed tavern is located, as noted, in the Montrose Shopping Park, where there are approximately 7 public parking lots available for the use. This includes City Parking Lot Number 3, which lies directly to the north of the subject property, with approximately 375 parking spaces available to the public for use. There's also on-street parking along Honolulu Avenue available. The proposed tavern use with on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcohol with incidental food service is not expected to negatively impact the neighborhood. The suggested conditions for the CUP would serve to mitigate any potential negative impacts in the neighborhood. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks. I don't have any questions right now, but I do want to acknowledge those letters from the public that you mentioned. I received an email from Anthony Santillo, Clara Santillo, Michelle Capazzoli, I believe there's another one, Kristen Milano. So just want to acknowledge those. I would like to call forward now the applicant, Matias Flores, and you'll have 15 minutes.
Good morning, Officer Stoller. Hope I pronounced that correctly, Mrs. Adi and Mr. Kiesel. My name is Matias Flores. My address is 800 West 1st Street, Suite 401-12, Los Angeles, 900 1212. I am the applicant. I represent the owners of this business. There's a total of four owners, two of whom are here, and one of whom has filled out a form as well. If the hearing officer would like to hear from him, his name is Joe Friedman. He's in the back. Besides the presentation given by Mrs. Adi, I'd like to say that myself and the owners have read the conditions of approvals. We understand the conditions of approval. One thing that I would ask for some clarification from the hearing officer would be the conditions at the very back of the package, which is an additional, what appears to be suggested conditions, or it's not clear to me at this time whether they're suggested conditions or actual conditions, or how these conditions will be applied if the CUP is approved.
Okay, which condition numbers?
If you were to look at...
Sorry. I believe what he's referring to are the request for comments that we sent to police. That's just noted in the public record, so everyone is aware of what police suggested, and then the conditions we recommend are in the staff report.
Okay.
So those you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, if you're okay with conditions 1 through 25 that are actually listed as part of the staff report, those are the conditions that would actually be applicable to your project.
And those are the conditions that I have reviewed with the business owners, and they understand them, and they will comply with them. Will the hearing officer like to hear from Mr. Friedman?
Well, I'm just curious. I know you're already operating the tavern. Are you proposing to make any changes from what's going on currently today?
No.
No? Okay. Then, yeah, I would like to hear from the applicant.
Okay.
Or the actual owner. I have a card for Mr. Joe Friedman.
That's what's coming up.
Morning.
Hi. Yeah,
How you doing?
just tell me about your business.
Oh, yeah. Well, we pretty much operate right there in the shopping park. We kind of are like a gastropub style tavern, so our food is definitely a focus. However, we do have cocktails and craft beer, so it's kind of fitting the trend. I guess it's fulfilling a need in the area. A lot of people tend to think it's a popular spot. So my brother and I have been bartenders for well over 12, 13 years, so we know how to responsibly serve alcohol and pretty much how to gauge guests and clientele when whether they've had too much to drink, or if any of those red flags kind of come up, if that's necessary, where we need to stop them or whatnot. So I think, with our background and knowing the area, we actually worked in that location as bartenders for the previous owners for 6 years. So the loyal local support has been pretty positive, which has been great. So whoever we did ask to write letters, they did send them in, and I think we've been pretty happy with it so far. So we just want to make sure that we're compliant. We're definitely, really happy with where we're at in Montrose. We think we're in a good area, and anything to do to be there for a long time, we'll do what's necessary. So.
Okay. And have you read the conditions of
Yes.
approval? Would you comply with the conditions?
Yeah, everything looks pretty...
No questions?
No questions. No.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
I don't have any other cards. Mr. Flores, would you like to provide concluding remarks? I have no other testimony.
That's unless the hearing officer would like to hear from anyone else. We do have also Dave Friedman, who is Joe's brother, and he's also a part owner, and then Mr. Nigel Burns, who worked in, and he's the third out of the four owners that I mentioned before. I don't think they're going to provide anything different than what has been said already, but I would like to point out that even though it will be a tavern, and that's the qualification that we come under, about 35% of the business is consumption of food. So the food aspect and the food service at the Basin 141, it's a big component of the business model. And with that, unless there's any other questions from the hearing officer or from staff, I'd like to first thank you for your time. Thank Mrs. Adi for her time. She's been incredibly patient and helpful throughout this process. And I'd like to submit, and hopefully we can get a decision today. And not, we'll wait.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just last chance. Anybody else who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to close the public hearing, and this is a complete staff report. All the findings are included in the staff report. It was well written. Thank you, Vista. And I am going to approve this project today based on the conditions that are in the staff report. So I'm not taking under submission. It is approved. For our next case, we have, and then I lost my agenda. Hang on a second. I know it's 1407, wherever it is, Glen Oaks. I found it. 1407 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, conditional use permit, case number PCUP 1500984. The applicant is R.S. Artunian, American General Design. Case planner is Roger Kiesel. This project is a 55-unit multifamily development with 81 parking spaces on a 41,000 square foot lot. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow residential units on the ground floor located at 1407 West Glen Oaks Boulevard in the C2 Height District 1 zone, described as parcel map per book 116, page 77 of Parcel Maps Lot B. The Community Development Department, after having conducted an initial study, prepared a mitigated negative declaration for the project. I'd like to ask the case planner to please provide an overview.
Good morning, Ms. Stotler. The applicant, American General Design, is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow multifamily dwelling units on the ground floor of a proposed project located at 1407 West Glen Oaks Boulevard in the C2 zone. The subject site is approximately 41,300 square feet and currently developed with a 6,500 square foot vacant restaurant building and surface parking lot. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3-story, 55-unit multifamily building. The L-shaped building will include 38 one-bedroom apartment units or residential units and 17 two-bedroom units. These units will contain between 670 and 1,100 square feet of living space. Access to the 81-space parking garage is located in the eastern portion of the site off of Glen Oaks Boulevard. The C2 zone, in the C2 zone, multifamily residential dwellings at the ground floor level require approval of a conditional use permit. The project design includes ground floor units, and thus the applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit. 4 findings of fact need to be made in order to grant a conditional use permit. Staff believes these findings can be made and recommends approval of this application. Oh, thank you. The subject site has a land use designation of community services commercial in the general plan land use element. Goals of this element include forming an urban environment which will provide for residential diversity and opportunity, supporting the creation of higher density residential development and alternative forms of medium and high density housing, and promoting the revitalization of deteriorating neighborhoods. The proposed project, including ground floor residential uses, is consistent with these goals. While the Glen Oaks Boulevard corridor is not deteriorating, the building on the subject site is currently vacant and has had a number of tenants come and go over its recent history. The proposed project would provide a new multifamily product, increasing housing type diversity and the opportunity to live in an area of the city that really hasn't had a whole bunch of residential development recently. Goals of the housing element include providing a wide range of housing types to meet the needs of current and future residents, as well as providing housing services that address groups with special needs. The project, including the provisions for ground floor residential units, is consistent with this element in that the applicant is proposing to include affordable housing units pursuant to Chapter 3036 of the Glendale Municipal Code and State Density Bonus Law, SB 1818. The neighborhood surrounding the subject site is developed with a variety of commercial uses along West Glen Oaks Boulevard. Ground floor residential units are more prominent east of the subject site and have not been detrimental to the public health or safety and the general welfare of the environment. The area surrounding the subject site is developed and has been for many years. Most of this development is a variety of commercial uses along or in the immediate vicinity along West Glen Oaks Boulevard. Although, as I mentioned previously, there is some multifamily residential east of the site, east of the site. The interior blocks north and south of West Glen Oaks Boulevard are developed with both single and multifamily housing. While the entirely residential development will interrupt the commercial nature of West Glen Oaks Boulevard, providing high-density housing development on the project site will encourage foot traffic in the area, benefiting both retail and service businesses along West Glen Oaks. There is very limited vacant land in the surrounding neighborhood, thus the project should not impact development of nearby sites. There adequate public and private facilities are provided for the proposed project. Public facilities such as gas, electricity, water, and sewer are located adjacent or are in place. Sorry. Approximately 34% of the site will be landscaped. The project includes, as I mentioned before, affordable housing units in accordance with SB 1818. Parking requirements for projects using SB 1818 are one parking space for each one-bedroom unit and 2 parking spaces for 2-bedroom units. For the proposed project, 72 parking spaces are required, and the project includes 81 on-site parking spaces. Staff supports the conditional use permit with the draft findings and conditions, and that concludes my presentation.
All right, thanks. I'd like to call forward next the applicant, Rodney Kahn.
Good morning, Ms. Stotler, city staff. My name is Rodney Kahn. My offices are located 1111 North Brand Boulevard, Suite 403 here in the city of Glendale. Our project that we are proposing today actually has evolved over the past year. And I think it's important for you to understand where we started out at and where we're at here today. Our original proposal was actually a mixed-use project. It was a 52-unit project with 8,400 square feet of retail. And when we originally submitted it, it did not include the city land, which was directly north of the site. We entered into negotiations with the city to purchase this property, and in doing so, we redesigned our project in order to offset the costs we would be paying for the city land. We submitted our project. It was encouraged that we submit as a precise plan of design, a PPD, and that project was 74 units, 10,600 square feet of retail, and 4 stories in overall height. That project was reviewed by City Council. That project was also presented at a community meeting. This brings us to our project you're reviewing here today, this 55-unit, 3-story project with, as Mr. Kiesel pointed out, 81 on-site parking spaces. This project you are reviewing here today actually addresses the concerns and comments from both the City Council and members of the community. I'd like to share with you some of those concerns and comments raised on the previous project and how we've actually addressed them in the project you're reviewing here today. First, there was a conversation and comments related to the overall height of the project. The previous project was 4 stories in height. It was approximately 45 feet. There were comments related that there were not buildings on Glen Oaks that were that tall, so there was a concern with that. The building directly east of us, for instance, the Extended Stay America, is 3 stories and about 35 feet. The project you're reviewing here today is 3 stories and 35 feet. The density has changed as well. I mentioned that our proposal was for 74 units. We are now down to 55 units. And of those 55 units, 5 of the units are for very low income, affordable housing. There was a lot of discussion about the different uses, in fact, on the ground floor, because we had a mixed-use project with commercial retail uses on the ground floor. What we were specifically told was members from the community did not want fast food. They did not want nail salons. They did not want water stores. They did not want any high traffic generating uses that could impact the surrounding neighborhood. And we were being limited as to what types of uses could go in this commercial space. As you can see with the new project, and the reason we're here today, is we've eliminated that commercial retail component. Other comments that we heard, both from City Council and the community, that we addressed. Previously, there were tandem parking spaces. We have no tandem parking spaces as part of our project. The driveway location. Previously, the driveway location was to the west. To the west, there was concern that their driveway to the commercial retail, which is the El Pollo Loco Center, that driveway potentially could have some conflict. And also there is a bus stop in front of that center as well, close to Sonora, that has both MTA and Glendale B line. There was also concern that was expressed to us that that driveway may interfere with that. As you can see from the proposal we've submitted, our driveway is completely on the opposite end of the lot on the east. There was a public open space component that we had in the previous project, and apparently the benefits didn't outweigh the costs. There was concerns that people would be congregating there from out of the area, that there would also be concerns about noise, loitering, etc. In the project you are reviewing here today, there is no large common public open space component. We do have a large open space area, but it is for the residents and the guests of the project. Last couple items as it relates to addressing concerns. The last project had no variances. This one has no variances. The last project had a precise plan of design, and members from the community felt you can call or term it whatever you want. That's a different way of saying it's variances for a precise plan of design. This project has no precise plan of design. As Mr. Kiesel pointed out, our site is located on West Glen Oaks Boulevard. Mr. Kiesel was kind in saying that this area of the city, in my opinion, does need upgrading. It does need work. This site in particular, if you've been out to the site, which I'm sure you have, it's basically a vacant building surrounded by a chain link fence and parking lots. It doesn't add to the community in any way whatsoever. What I'd like to do is go over the findings a little bit more than Mr. Kiesel did and just touch on a few of the items that I think are important for you to note. The use will be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan. Well, we talked about the housing element, and Mr. Kiesel pointed out that it's to provide a wide range of housing types. We have different size units, we have 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, and we have different price units. We have both market rate for the various unit sizes and square footage, and we also have affordable units as well. The safety element identifies that the subject site is not part of a fault zone, not part of a liquefaction zone, and not part of a landslide zone. The land use element, which allows for residential projects in commercial zones. And I think it's important to note, the residential land use is allowed here on site by right on the 2nd and 3rd floors. The reason we're here today is just to do a conditional use permit, which is a permitted use, just with conditions attached, to allow residential on the ground floor, and that's why we're here today. The circulation element and also an evaluation, which was done by a traffic consultant, stated that the increase in traffic from this project generated Glen Oaks Boulevard can easily accommodate. The next item as it relates to the public health or safety. This was important to highlight on. Oftentimes, commercial uses or in commercial areas, they have different alternatives. They have different impacts on the community, both from a parking, traffic, noise, loading, those types of activities than residential land uses do. We heard that from some of the community members on the previous project. Thus, we eliminated the commercial retail component. In addition to any of the aforementioned analysis, the new construction will be designed to meet all uniform building code, fire codes, engineering codes, and all city safety requirements. In terms of adjacent uses, I mentioned that to the west is the El Pollo Loco Center. It's a commercial retail corner center. To the north of us is actually city-owned property. There's discussion of it possibly being a city park. There's discussion of it possibly being an affordable housing project. That's still in discussions, and that would be for the city and the city council to determine. To the east of us is an extended stay hotel. I mentioned earlier in my presentation about the extended stay, the height, but now I'd like to talk a little bit about the use. It actually operates very much like a residential apartment building. This extended stay, it has suites and rooms that offer a fully equipped kitchen in each room. Well, as you know, the definition of what a residential dwelling unit is if it has a kitchen or not, and these all do. There's also, in terms of that facility, you can stay for a week, you can stay for a month, you can stay for a year. Has residential or commercial on the ground floor. That is what the extended stay folks, when I talked to them, told me, and that's part of their information that I'd be happy to give to you.
Okay.
That project, the extended stay, some years ago was also somewhat controversial for this area. And it's been there since about 1999, 2000, and it has not been a problem for that neighborhood. Mr. Kieseler also already talked about adequate public and private facilities, so I won't belabor those points, but we've provided more than the code-required parking. There's Glendale Water and Power that also has the ability to provide utilities serving this facility. But a few points I'd like to make in conclusion. One is by right. The density bonus ordinance, we could actually propose a 55-unit building, 4 stories, not 3 stories, 4 stories in height. If we had retail on the ground floor, we would require no conditional use permit. We would only have design review. And simply stated, that is an option for us, but at this time we are choosing not to propose that. We are choosing to propose a plan that we think has addressed the comments from the City Council, from the community that we heard. The project, we feel, is very well designed. The same colors, the materials, the quality has all been incorporated in this project as well. We've had a chance to review the 14 draft conditions proposed by staff, and we agree to comply with all of them. That will conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any right now. Oh, actually, no, I do. For your SB 1818, do you need to have ground floor residential to make the project affordable?
No.
No? Okay. And then are you asking for any incentives with your SB 1818?
There would be 2 incentives that we would be offering or asking for. One is a 0.06 increase in floor area. And the other is a setback on the front.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have a card from Lynn Myers, followed by Louise Peebles.
Good morning, Lynn Myers. Let me first say that for anyone watching this meeting, or anyone who may watch it in the future, and is unfamiliar with the proposed development of 1407 West Glen Oaks, I would encourage them to watch the archived video of the December 9, 2014 council meeting when a proposed project at this location was first presented to council, and to watch the entire hearing. I would also refer them to the closed session item before a special meeting of the Housing Authority on January 20th, 2015, which was to concern the price and terms of payment for acquisition of the 1407 West Glen Oaks property. This was not televised, but you will find the agenda and minutes for this special Housing Authority item on the city's website under Agendas and Minutes. One can analyze and draw their own conclusions. The original proposal for this property expanded the development by including a portion of city-owned property, entangling the city in the development of this property from the very beginning. The fact of the matter is, the developer bought a piece of property in a community commercial C2 zone, allowing for standard commercial retail office use. And since the original deal for a mega mixed-use development, which included city-owned property, fell through, when the people of this city became aware, they are now attempting to maximize their investment in this community commercial zone by building a huge 55-unit apartment complex per R1250 zone standards, which is the city's most dense multi-family zone. This area is far too congested and dense as it is, and the project is in opposition to the downtown specific plan. A CUP should not be granted, and a 55-unit apartment structure should not be approved in this C2 zone. And further, I would propose that the city is in no position to be granting a CUP or any other concession to this developer, which would presumably be for the purpose of resolving issues related to dealings that appear to have occurred from the very beginning between the city and the developer. No on the CUP and no on this project.
Okay. Next, I'd like to call forward Louise Peebles.
Good morning, everybody. I live north of the project and Matilla Road off of Grandview, and I drive down that corridor, I'd call it, down Sonora many times a week, and certainly probably almost once a day. I did speak at the meeting where the city council present unanimously rejected the project that was first proposed with the larger number of units and the fourth floor, all of those elements. I do not have the comments as succinct as the previous speaker does, or along the same vein. But I would say one thing that caught my attention just a minute ago, unless I totally misunderstood, and I don't know if you're allowed to answer, but I think you asked the applicant a minute ago if having the units on the first floor was necessary under the 1818, but would to make it, I think you said, make it work cost effectively. I'm not using your exact words. And I thought the answer was no from the individuals behind me and at the podium. That brings up if I understood that correctly, it kind of surprises me that if they are able to make their costs without the ground floor housing, I wonder why we're doing that. Now, again, I may be in error, but I'd like somebody to pick up on that. The other thing I'd like to bring up, and again, my comments are much more generalized than the previous speaker. That area, having lived there for as long as I have, is already very dense in activity. You're talking about moving the driveway, which I think is do I have a time limit?
You have 1 minute left.
Go ahead. And
Okay. I'm glad you have moved the driveway, but the very fact of having people come out of an underground subterranean there still does concern me, being not just the Pollo Loco, but across from the Pollo Loco is one of the busiest gas stations in the city. You have people line up outside the gas station waiting to get into the pumps. At a corner, you have a very, very busy small mini pizza market, donut place, the whole area. And if any of you saw, and this I know is a strange coincidence, and it probably would never happen again, there was a very horrible accident there just recently. The man in the shopping mall hit the accelerator instead of and he was not an antique-like driver like me. Some people might say, oh, was he 70 or above? No, he was young. He ran into the people at the bus bench. That is not going to happen, I understand, with the individuals in this unit. But it points up the density and the activity level with the bus stop and all that goes on at that large intersection. I just don't see how we're going to add this many more people coming and going right there. I don't know if you're allowed to comment, anybody, about what I asked a minute ago about the first floor and the costing and what have you. I think I'd like to understand that better if that's possible. Thank you.
We'll let the applicant, I don't have any other cards. I do see other people out in the audience. Does anybody else wish to speak? Because now is your chance to turn in a card. Do we have any other cards? Oh.
Yep.
One more. Great. Thanks. Sally Spalding.
I'm sorry I'm late, but it's...
That's okay.
I just found out this morning that the meeting was today.
Please speak in the microphone, and please just give me your name and address, and then you can provide comments about the project.
Okay. Sally Spalding, 2014 Bel Air Drive, Glendale. I've been here before when you first presented this, and I intended to come to this meeting, except that I just found out what time it was a short time ago. There isn't very much advertising about these meetings, and I think it's difficult. At least they don't come my way. I happened to see it in the morning paper. Somebody wrote a letter, and that's how come I knew it was 9:30 today. Anyway, I want to know why, if we've gone back, I'm sorry to have missed the presentation, but have we gone back to the downtown specific plan in continuing to plan this project? Because it still seems, from what I have been hearing about it, it still seems a large project for the area that it's on Glen Oaks. And because that's my main thing. I think we should not have these large projects. I've just gone to a meeting in one of the new buildings down on Glendale on Broadway. And the meeting is for somebody that had a wonderful position, before, but moved into this building, and his office is now downstairs with no lights and I just feel that Glendale is having a problem with building, and we should stop for a while and take a deep breath and decide what is appropriate for this city and what is not appropriate. And I think that I know that the gentlemen have done a lot of changes in this site on Glen Oaks, but I still think it's a bad place to put a large building. Now we need some housing for low-income housing, and maybe this will be the one. But it needs to be important, not just an add-on. And I think that's all I can say, since I haven't heard the news.
Okay. Is there anybody else?
I'd love it if we had some announcements ahead of time on me.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'd now like to ask the applicant to provide a rebuttal.
I certainly will. Thank you, Ms. Stadler. A few comments. In terms of notification, as you guys know, the site is posted with a 3-foot by 4-foot sign well in advance. The agendas are posted. The notices are mailed out. It's posted on the city website. So there are public notice requirements that the city of Glendale obviously has. The one lady that missed the original presentation and talked about the downtown specific plan, and are we trying to follow that? The answer is no. We are not trying to follow the downtown specific plan. We're not part of the downtown specific plan. And when we redesigned this project did not look at, nor did it rely on anything at all to do with the downtown specific plan. In terms of some of the comments related to the proximity of the gas station, or that some gentleman had run into the bus benches, the only I can't really comment to that. I mean, that could happen anywhere, obviously, whether it's high density or low density. Those types of tragic events occur. What we have been able to do, which I think addresses more of a traffic issue than that specific topic, is to relocate the driveway, as I mentioned earlier, that will put us further away from the bus stop and puts us further away from other driveways. So it makes it safer as it relates to any off-site traffic circulation issues. In terms of developing according to the R1250 zone standards, that's what the code requires. That's what the code allows. We can't randomly select the development standards that we apply. The R1250 standards, it says very specifically in the code, if you're in a commercial zone and you're doing high-density multifamily residential development, you can follow the R1250 standards. That's what we've done. In terms of the city-owned land, and I thought I might have mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again, this project does not include the city-owned land directly north of the site. It is a standalone site. It is the site that has been purchased by Mr. Tarachian. He owns it. There's no additional square footage. There is no anything that's being added to it. It's simply the project that you're reviewing here today. There was a comment related to cost or economics, and I want to make sure that we're answering the question that is being asked. So if the question that was being asked is from an economic perspective, does it make sense for us to do commercial retail on the ground floor and then 2 levels of residential above it? The answer is no, it does not. If we did that, what we would do is we would do a ground floor retail. We'd do 3 stories of residential above it. It would now be a 4-story building instead of a 3-story building. And then we would have to ask for that as an incentive, which we could very well do. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay.
Once again, we feel we've designed something that really is a benefit to this area, and we think it's a well-designed project. That concludes my remarks. If you have questions, once again, I'll try to provide answers.
No, I don't have any other questions. Is there last chance? Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing none, then I'm going to take this item under consideration, or I'm going to close the public hearing now. I'm closed the public hearing. I'm now taking this item under submission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no further items on the agenda, and this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for coming.
cut down the Christmas lights, and though it's gotten warmer, you know there's still a few red cold nights. I shudder to remember